And scene. It is another Pick Six podcast. I am joined again with DPZ in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. Sleepless in Seattle out there, Dennis. I just got back from the National, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Dennis also wants to talk about PSA offers and kind of all the things that are going on there. So we've got a lively episode here today. DPZ, I missed you, buddy. How you doing?
Nice to see you, my friend. Doing great. It's doing great. Sitting here in the office, one of my offices at the bank. Working, but taking a little break here to do a quick little episode with you and recap some of your experiences at the National. I've been watching videos and catching up, which has been great. But yeah, I've missed having these conversations and looking forward to discussing hobby topics today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that you were the one that had brought up just, feeling bullish on the hobby. And it's hard to go to the National and not feel that way. Just bonkers of a show. I'll see if I can mix in. Maybe I can mix in a clip of kind of that Thursday as we're driving in, as I'm talking here.
The line to get into the National. If you don't have a badge yet, this is on Thursday. And it just keeps on going. Wow.
It was ridiculous. It was like nothing I've seen. I mean, so I was in Chicago 2 years ago for the National, and this general admission line wrapped all the way around the convention center, which is nuts. It was not like that 2 years ago. And then I think it was Ben Burros on collect.com, card ladder data reporting that the month of July, this past month, was a record month for trading cards online, $308 million, of course. And that's not even really tracking everything. It's tracking auction houses, tracking eBay, but it's not tracking everything. There's probably tens of millions of dollars that was transacted at the National by itself. And then you're taking into, Fanatics Fest, all the other card shows all over the place, all the in-person card shop transactions. I mean, we're talking like maybe even like in the neighborhood of like $1 billion a month. I mean, when you really look at total, because they're just looking at online sales that they're able to track, and there is far more going on. Private sales, private deals that are never reported, high-end stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's a weird time because you want to be, it's like you want to feel optimistic at the same time. You're like, when is this all going to end? I keep hearing about the economy and this, that, or whatever. It doesn't feel like anybody cares about that, or maybe it's not, or maybe it's just all going to be good. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Like, again, there's another positive video. I know that folks think I'm negative a lot. I do think I do think that I think it's natural. It's a more mature market right now. I don't think I don't think there's any bubbles. Maybe there's little ones here and there. I mean, if you're spending a lot of money on, say, Caitlin Clark and maybe some places where it's not as mature, the market. But I think in a lot of places it is. I think that there's going to be prospecting and breaking that's always going to happen, and you're always going to do that. Because everyone's looking for that, next Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. Football is going to be king. Wharf Sports Cards put out a really cool, he's a great follower. Follow Nick at the Wharf. He's got a great Instagram account. He puts up a lot of great stats and information. So go give him a follow if you haven't already. But he put up a stat about how, people watch the Hall of Fame game. More people watch the Hall of Fame game than they watch the NBA Finals, which is rather interesting if you think about it, because
I didn't realize that. That's crazy.
Yeah, way more people, and that's like an insignificant football game, right? Yep. But you have the NBA Finals, which is very significant. Now, some could say, well, you didn't have a marquee team, and it was two smaller market teams that were in the finals. You could say that, but I mean, back in the '90s, it was all about basketball, and basketball ruled, and you can see that reflected in the card market. Basketball cards are king.
It also, I think too, sorry to cut you off, hold that thought, but I think it also displays the power of Michael Jordan in the 90s and the draw to him, just the attendance, the TV attendance, the in-person attendance with him there. And again, obviously, like, this is a whole sidebar, but just who is going to be that next person? LeBron James is leaving. It's just not the same NBA as it has been in, years past with Kobe and with Shaq and with Jordan. It's not in a great spot right now. But anyway, go ahead.
You're right. You don't have that marquee guy. We've had it in LeBron, Kobe, Jordan. Then we have Bird and Magic kind of started it. So you've always had somebody since 1979 until recently. You've always had somebody, right, kind of carrying that torch, and you don't have that. So that does hurt. But you also think about all the football greats during the 90s, they still don't perform. You have a couple, Jerry Rice, Barry Sanders. Then after that, it just drops right off. For basketball, Tracy McGrady still sells really well, and he's like a top 75 player all time. So the basketball really ruled. Football 5 to 10 years from now, I believe the modern football market is going to it's going to destroy. You got Steph Curry and you got a couple of guys like that, but I think the modern football market now, 5 to 10 years ago, is going to be huge. So there's opportunity there for buying football cards that are modern now and the right kind of cards, obviously.
So do you think there's going to be collectors the same way you have a guy like Tracy McGrady, who was a great player, but he was never, he didn't win multiple titles or anything, but it's kind of similar, I guess. So what you're saying is maybe that's like a Joe Burrow. He might not be a Tom Brady.
Yeah, a deeper collector pool for the modern football market 5 to 10 years from now will be just like the deep market that we have and mature market we have for 90s basketball and some baseball. Okay. Yeah, so that's the comparison. And you can see that, and that's the point that Nick was making. And I can see, and I agree with it. I guess that's a really great point. Like, that's probably what's going to happen, because baseball and football and basketball aren't as popular as the NFL right now. And so the NFL is going to be this generation's NBA in the 90s. So the card market's going to reflect that, in my opinion. I think those cards are going to be worth something. So something to kind of watch and look at. That also gives you this, like, okay, to your point, like, is this ever going to end? Like, is it going to stop? When's it going to? No, it's not, because you're going to have all these young people that are buying the modern cards, or people even our age buying the modern cards 5 to 10 years from now are going to be waiting and seeing what happens there. And how these players develop in their careers? What are those cards going to be worth? So I think it's just going to keep going. Now, here's my prediction, though. A big prediction is, and surprise, surprise, you guys always make fun of me because I can't help it. I love the 90s. I don't have any modern cards. All I have is the 90s stuff, and I love it. And I'm doubling down on it. So that's important to me. I'm gonna obviously lean into that hard, but I think the 90s right now, I think in a few years it's going to be really hard to find the key 90s cards for key player. I mean, the top players, obviously, the Jordans and all that, they're going to dry up quick. But I think even that, as you go down the tier, here's the Barclays, the Iversons, you keep going. You can name all. There's a lot of players. I think some of the football too. I think the 90s football and some of the 90s baseball are still ripe as well. There's an opportunity there to kind of get some of those and the key cards from the key sets. I think a lot of people have gotten smart. Like you said, there's a lot more money. There's a lot of transactions happening, but they're buying the right kind of cards. They're not buying the base stuff. They're getting stuff that's rare. People are paying attention to pack odds. Okay, pack odds, you're doing your due diligence. Now you got AI, you got ChatGPT. You can find out what pack odds are for pretty much any set and insert. So you can kind of target the cards you want that are rare, that you want to collect and have. And sometimes grade doesn't matter. And that's another thing I see that's happening. PSA 8s and PSA 9s of a lot of these players in the 90s, and these cards and these sets are becoming sought after because people just want the card, because they look at the pack odds and go, wow, this may not even be serial numbered, but I know it's one out of like every 6,000 packs. That's a rare card. There's probably not very many of them. I'm going to get one, even in a 6 or a 7, but I just want one. And that's called collecting, right? Now you're collecting, which is kind of fun. It adds a whole other layer to it. I know people have to go, of course, that's reflecting tennis. That's what people do. Yeah, it's true. But I think people are kind of moving away from this. I'm investing as much as I'm going to collect and put together a really cool collection of cards, and then keep working and coloring up and doing stuff like that. Because a lot of those big cards, even in low grades, these big tier 1 cards, you're not touching them. Most of us are not going to even get close to sniff those cards. So we're looking at the tier 2, tier 3 cards in high grades, or a tier 2 card in any one of those kind of sets in a mid, in like an 8 or a 7, maybe even a 9, maybe, depending on the player and the market and all that stuff. But I just think those players, collector bases are going to keep maturing. But then at the same time, you're going to have the modern stuff for football is going to keep maturing and percolating. And that's going to be something you'll want to watch 5 to 10 years from now. Right. So, and then you'll have people coming back to go buy those cards 5 to 10 years ago, and it'll keep cycling. Right. But I think 90s is going to it's going to become really difficult to jump into that here in a few years.
Yeah, one thing that really stood out to me too at the National, and granted, I don't travel around to all these different card shows. I know there's a lot of guys that go, vloggers and things that go to the Dallas and they go to all these different places. But the future nostalgia with the young folks, it is locked in. I mean, there are loads and loads of young people, just like we were when we were kids. I mean, of course, I didn't go to the National when I was young. That wasn't even on the radar as being a possibility. Yeah, I came from a very middle class family. Like we didn't go to Disney World or you know, or let alone like a national card show. My parents would be like, dude, we're not traveling for a card show. We'll go to the Panama City Mall. But that was something that really stood out to me is just the number of young people. And I'm thinking about, you know, they're all going to do the same thing that we did, kind of hit that like midlife crisis and like, you know, 15, 20, 25 years are going to have some cash to spend or whatever. And maybe also it'll be kind of a mix, but more of a mix on Pokemon, you know, because Pokemon's still very popular. I see the same thing on the Pokemon side where there's a lot of young people involved, but there are a ton of sports card young people, tons of them. Now, what's different though, when we were kids, there was not the liquidity that we're seeing now. And we'll actually get into that. The next topic is going to be around liquidity in the market. Repacks getting a lot of attention, but also you wanted to talk about PSA and then also maybe other spin-off, you know, type offer programs that are out there. But just the liquidity in today's market is insane compared to like when we were kids. It's like you open a pack and if you're going to like trade, you know, sell a card back to the dealer, you're getting 20 cents on the dollar. You're getting nothing. And there wasn't, you know, big type hits and that sort of a thing. You weren't pulling all these monster cards. So let's talk about that next is just kind of the change and also just the velocity of, you know, transactions that we have today and the liquidity that's available to us. So go ahead, you can kick us off.
Well, it was interesting. And again, I'm just going to kind of wrap what I just said earlier. Like, I don't know for sure. I'm not telling people to go and buy cards like at all. I could be totally wrong. I guess, you know, I'll wrap that up with saying I'm just very optimistic on, and I'm doubling down on the hobby in general, and not just the 90s. I think the modern's going to have its place too. I just think it's a very healthy space right now, and it's very mature. It's not 2021. Yeah, so look at that.
My only pickup, my only national 52 tops maze and a 1, but I was just like, damn. It's my first vintage baseball card. So we're in the vintage baseball card game officially. So, but yeah, I'm like, really, I gotta diversify a little bit into some of the vintage baseball stuff. There's so many classic cards. I'm not doing like a full run or anything, but just have like a few key cards.
That is a sweet pickup. What a cool pickup. That's called a collector pickup because you're getting a very important historic card. It's a piece of history.
Yeah.
That's a piece of history. 52 tops. I mean, just having any grade is a huge deal. And again, those ones are now pretty expensive. They weren't that expensive 10 years ago. You know, they've gone up. So there's an appreciation for that. You obviously have a thriving vintage market too, right? And that's the cool thing about our hobbies are all these different like segments of the hobby, right? It's a great place right now. And I think the fact that it's so healthy right now amidst inflation, amidst this, you know, that's a great sign. So, and it's a global hobby too. It's not just an American hobby. So that's also very positive. What was interesting, the liquidity thing is an interesting topic because I think for a long time, a lot of people vault. I don't vault. I like having my cards, but you know, I choose to buy cards on PSA. I'll have them vaulted because you save on the sales tax. So there's an advantage to that. Now you never get your card. It takes a long time to get your card, but you save the money and I feel like it's just worth it. Well, recently, this last week, I had a Griffey card I bought, just like a kind of a smaller, lower end card. And I had it sent in and obviously the thing gets authenticated, then it gets vaulted. And that takes a minute because they vault in Delaware and they authenticate in California. So it just takes a while. But once it gets in there, it's in there and they tell you it's in there. And it's funny because normally I just kind of yank it out as soon as I can get it, right? It costs like $10 and he is sent back to you. But I forgot to pull out this Griffey for a couple of days. So it sat in the vault, you know, for a couple of days, my PSA vault. It's like a PSA 9, like Donruss Elite, you know, gold at 100. It's a kind of a cool card, but it's, you know, less than $600 card, you know, and I bought it for like, I think I bought it for like 800. And then I say it made an offer to buy it from me. And I was like, what's this? Like, what is this? Is there a person? I don't even have it listed. Like I was totally thrown because I hadn't read or anything about like, okay, there's this product, this is offering we have now. Well, we'll buy the card from you. I'm like, well, who's buying the card from me? He's like, somebody from PSA. Like, I don't get it. I didn't list it. I was super confused. Then I looked up all the information. Like, oh wow, like PSA can make an offer on the card once it's in the vault, and they can take possession of it straight from the vault and they buy it. And they offered me like $1,100 for it, like almost double what I paid. I'm like, yeah, okay. I said yes. Looking at recent comps, I'm like, well, that makes sense. I could do that. And then, okay, now you have to set up, and I was like, okay, now I need to set up how to get paid. Well, then you just set up your information, your banking information, so they can pay you. And the money's already in my account. It took like a day. And now they have the card and they can run off and do whatever they want with it. I was thinking, that is interesting. At first I thought, was there a conflict of interest here? But then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, yeah, if I sell it and they can sell it for more, yeah, technically that's fine. Could they, I highly doubt they're going to crack it and regrade it and try to, that I don't see that. That's a long leap towards fraudulent behavior. I don't believe is going to happen at PSA or any company. It's hard for me to go there. I'm not a shill for anybody. We're shilling for, I'm sponsored by Dennis Zender. That's who I'm sponsored by, myself. So I have nothing in here, but I just in general I don't think anybody would do that. It's a stretch, but I find it pretty interesting, and it creates another avenue for liquidity, another avenue for income for selling your cards. I also feel like it encourages you to vault your cards, because if you're vaulting them, then they're always available for sale. I think Fanatics, I don't know if Fanatics does that. I don't think they do, but I think I can see them doing that next, right? Because everybody kind of works off each other, right? So if Fanatics does it as well, now you're going to have Fanatics where you can sell your cards. You can have your cards bought from you from the vault from Fanatics, and you can have, PSA doing the same darn thing. You can split your collection up between Fanatics and PSA, and now every card you have is technically for sale at any given moment in time from PSA or Fanatics or another. Maybe Alt will do it too, because they have a vaulting as well. So I just think that kind of stuff is interesting. It creates another avenue for the collector. But then there's also the other side of it. It's like, well, I don't want some of my really rare cards to be visible to anybody. It opens that door of like, okay, someone might make you an offer you can't refuse, right? I mean, but then if it's coming from Fanatics or PSC, they're probably they have to write in their profit, right? So they're not, like a dealer, they're going to come in low on it because they got to go turn around and make money with it, right? So it may not be the best way to sell your car. Obviously, the best way is probably to auction it with a good auction company, or make a private deal with a collecting friend or a community. But yeah, I was something that kind of just happened this week. I didn't even know you could do that, or they were doing that. But it was very interesting. I don't know if there's a whole lot to say about it, but I found it. Maybe some of you have already done it, but yeah, it was the first time for me.
I think that we're going to see the offer part from PSA expand over time too. I don't think this is the last iteration of it. I think there will be more opportunities. I will tell you though, I graded something like 20 cards here over the last couple of months, and I love how I can send some of them home. I can send some of them to the vault, and there was ones where I just auctioned them right off. Did like 7-day auction on eBay. Never touched it, but these were cards that I planned to flip anyway. So it would have been something where it's like they send it to me, then I list on eBay, then I have to send it out myself. Whereas with this, it's just like boom, it's all done. I don't have to deal with it. There was 5 to 7 cards were like that, just 7-day auction, and like you said, bank account information's there. They just send it in a day or two or whatever. Once it's paid, it's easy peasy. And I think the rate, like their sales rate, is basically like 13 or 14%. It's like right in line with what it would be on eBay anyway. So it's like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. But yeah, it's just interesting. And to your point, will more companies offer, these sorts of options to liquidate, just instant offers? I mean, my God, look at the arena pack, the repacks where it's like, click the button to open the digital pack, and then you get the card, and then you have an instant offer, and you can take the instant offer, and then buy another pack, or send it. It's like there's definitely a push, it seems like, by the industry to make sure that there are options there to sell that card back. Everybody wants to hold the inventory. They want to be the ones holding, just buying and selling, holding the inventory and having it transact on their platform.
Yeah, more transactions. I mean, the more the cards are moving, the money's moving, the healthier the hobby is going to be. Obviously, from a business perspective, now does that mean are we really collecting when we do that so much? But I think there's obviously there's cards that stay with you forever. I think a lot of us buy and sell. That's just what we do. I think we're over. I think that topic is done. It's been beaten a lot.
Well, it's fun to speculate. It's fun to speculate on some stuff. Like you might have a guy or gal that you're speculating on with the hopes that you can make some money on it, and then you buy the PC stuff, like what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. So I think there's always that element. And I think that's going to work towards that. And it's going to allow people to be able to do that. So it sounds so like, I guess, like, so the national, like, how do you feel then? Like, how are you feeling about the hobby? Are you agreeing with me? Do you feel you were actually there? I'm just watching content. I'm hearing from different collectors. I'm plugged in that way, but I wasn't there. So I don't know what that was like. So maybe give me an idea, maybe walk me through. Does that correlate? Are you feeling and seeing that with the trade nights and with the energy? And how does it compare to the past shows that you were at?
So I think that the one thing that's missing, I kind of explained this a little bit on a video, but I'll say it again here. So actually, let me give a little bit of backstory. So 15 years ago, I worked in sales for a company that set up large trade shows for financial services companies. And I was selling exhibit space and sponsorships and all that sort of thing. So I was selling booths and workshops and, different things to companies. So it was like TD Ameritrade, Fidelity, or E-Trade, are kind of big sponsors that come in. So you had kind of the paid folks that are coming in, they're paying to speak, to the audience. But then what they did, which was really smart, I thought, is they had editorial educational content as part of it. Because if we're looking at cards, at trading cards, yes, there is the dollar boxes and there are friggin' Bobby Hebert cards and Dalton Hilliard Saints cards. Yes. But let's face it, a lot of people are there to buy cards for store value, or they're buying to buy and sell. There's a big money component here. Let's not kid ourselves. So the part that I think is missing is that editorial content piece in these shows. So what would be really cool is to have breakout sessions where you have, and I don't know who these people would be. I don't know if it's Dr. Beckett. I don't know if it's Topps executives talking about the history of 52 Topps baseball, but it could be a litany of different subjects with the goal of, providing education to people and it not just be a marketing machine. And that's really what the National and Fanatics Fest, these are big industry sales events. They are marketing events. And look, I'm part of, we with our YouTube and with this stuff, IG, we are part of the marketing machine. We're showing cards, we're talking about it, we're sharing what, our experiences. So I think that part, they've got it down pat. They've got the huge sponsors. They've got the exhibit space is all filled out. There's a zillion tables at the National. But the piece that I would really like to see is just, and I think it would be wildly popular. I think there's space for it, but just breakout sessions where people are talking about sets. Maybe they're debating it. Maybe they're debating, 84 Star and 86 Fleer. Maybe they're debating 52 Topps versus 51 Bowman, but that's sort of kind of editorial content, educational content. I had somebody comment on a video and said like, yeah, but you can get that all over YouTube. You can get educational content all over YouTube. Sort of. I mean, where do you find it? Number one. Number two, I can bet that 90% of the people walking around the National are not watching YouTube sports card content or IG very much. Maybe they catch it here and there. I don't think they're religiously watching sports card YouTube. I feel pretty strongly about that. So, but then even if they are, who cares? Okay, so Dr. Beckett has his Sports Card Insight podcast. Wouldn't it be cool though, if you listen to his podcast, to be able to go and see him on stage talking about some sort of a hobby topic and educating on some sort of, just educating on something. But I think that's kind of the missing piece for this show, really for card shows in general. But I'm using the National as the example because it's the big one. I don't expect this to happen at like smaller shows.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a really interesting point, a good point to maybe bring up. I think the people that have the most to teach you, to say, are the quietest people. They're the people that have the least to say, know the most, right?
Yeah.
I constantly learn. I'm still a novice. I'm still learning so much. I still know nothing. I am still in my infancy in understanding anything about the hobby, in my opinion. I've only been back into the hobby since 2019. There's people who have been doing it for forever. They've been doing it their whole lives. There are people that understand the ins and outs of all the stuff I love about the hobby. But that's the fun part, that's what's exciting.
But what if you put 5 Jordan collectors, hardcore Jordan collectors, whether it's high end or mid end or whatever, on a panel, and they're just talking about their stuff and what they like, and they're throwing out different sets, and people watch that, they might be like, what set is that? What are they talking? You could take notes, like, what are you even talking about? And then there's a Q&A session, at the end where it's like, why'd you choose this over that? There's none of that at the show, at any shows, so it doesn't necessarily have to be like an industry expert. It could literally be, hardcore Jordan collectors, hardcore Griffey collectors, whoever it is. But think about how many people come into this hobby now. You're talking about how it's growing, expanding, and they don't have a damn clue where to even start, but they love Ken Griffey Jr. So they know that they want to get into Griffey stuff, but they don't have a damn clue where to find you or to find anybody. This could be an outlet. It could be like on the schedule at the National, like Griffey Collectors 101, 3 to 4 p.m. at this workshop. Listen.
Well, I think, and you kind of bringing up an idea of something we could possibly even do with this platform with our show, our weekly or bi-weekly show, is that we can do a breakdown on a set. Let's talk about, Thunder and Lightning, Skybox Premium Thunder and Lightning set. It's a really cool set. It glows in the dark. It's got this hollow full feel. There's 15 cards in it. And it's basketball. Now, if you're not a basketball guy or gal, then maybe it's not going to speak to you. But I think a lot of people are. You got Allen Iverson in the set, Anthony Hardaway. You've got Stephon Marbury, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, Marcus Camby, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman. Like, I'm naming most of them. Antoine Walker, Boston Celtics. So you got all these like players, and they're very affordable to buy raw, and you can buy them raw and you can grade them. That's something that I've been doing recently, is just buying the raw ones, and I'm going to grade them, put the set together, which is a lot of fun.
Dude, I'm just
talk about the pack odds in that set. Talk about the set. Talk about the cards in it. That's something we can do, and you just start doing that, over time, and eventually people just learn and go, "Oh gosh, that's the kind of content I love to consume." Is learning about this.
Maybe we'll kind of let's look at our future, kind of schedule it up to where maybe like the first half of the episode we're talking about hobby topic, what's new, and then the back half of the episode we break down an insert set from the 90s or whatever, or vintage whatever, or modern whatever.
We can do football, we can do baseball, we can do basketball, do ball. But that's something I can do. We can bring a third person on for the show, just like a resident expert on the set to kind of walk us through the set too, and just to bring more heads up. But I can do the research and present it. It's that's a fun part of the hobby, is the education piece to me. I love consuming that kind of stuff because you're learning. And the fun part about some of these insert sets, you obviously have the big cards like the Jordans or the Kobe's, but you also have like, there's Marbury collectors out there. Like Marbury's in that set. He's got an insert. It's such a cool card. And you can go get it for like $100. And it's like, you can go get the raw and you grade it, and it's very condition sensitive. So a 6 is not that big of a deal. You can get a 6. 6 is fine. It's a really beautiful, really cool looking card.
That select mirror gold that you put me on, I think they're numbered out of 35 or whatever. Yeah. So one of them, I put that on my saved searches, and a Jim Everett, because I put Saints, Saints cards, because I'm like, I want one of these cards, but I don't want to, I just want to get like a regular player. I don't need to get like anything that's super expensive. Jim Everett popped up like in a PSA 8 or whatever, and I don't care what the grade is, but it's like $1.25 at auction with a few, with like 4 days left. I'm like, this is how I'm going to get my first. Yeah. And I was like, I could probably get this card for $50 or whatever it ends up being, but I'm going to try to get it. Maybe I just ruined it. Maybe a Jim Everett collector just came out of nowhere and it's like, yeah, the deep Jim Everett collector base just caught this, and now they're going to bid against it. No. But yeah, I think that's a great idea. So we'll plan that out. We're coming up to time here. 30 minutes flies by. But yeah, let's kind of see if we can put that together in the comment section below. If there's a specific, set or era or whatever that you'd like to see some more info on, we can do. Hey, look, we're not going to come at you with, any sort of mega knowledge or anything, but we'll do it. We'll do our very best. DPZ knows his stuff on the 90s side. I'll pull out some stuff. Maybe we'll do one on the Stranger Things card set, because we got the new season. The last season is coming up here soon. So I'll throw some things together here over the next few
days. Let's do that. Yeah. In the comments below, folks, let us know what sets you want us to walk through. And even if I'm not familiar with it, I'll go learn about it. I'll dive headfirst into it. I'll learn everything about it. I'll study the market. I'll study the set, the cards, where it came from, pack odds, the whole nine. I'll talk to people that know stuff about it. That's the best part. You go find the collectors that have been doing this forever, that know things about all these cool sets, and you find these really weird, obscure sets that are so cool. The funny thing is, you see them in hand, and like, I'll give you an example here. I'll just show you a card. Like, here's this Michael Jordan Thrill Seekers. See, it has that scope pattern.
Yeah.
And it's an insert. I think it's 1 out of 3,000 some packs. It's a PSA 8, 97 Fleer. And there's another Thrill Seekers earlier. So I've been learning a lot about the Jordan market recently. And those are really cool cards with really cool sets. And that Michael Jordan, I got to do some research on it. I'm sure there's other players that have that very same card. It's just, maybe it's Shaquille O'Neal or just the 97. Yeah, Shaquille O'Neal has one, or Kobe has one. So you go and you find them, you're like, okay, yeah, you don't need to get a Jordan, but you can get the other player and you can learn about the set and that insert or that parallel or whatever. Just there's a lot of fun there, and it's kind of keeps you active in the hobby, learning things. There's so many cards.
Yeah, and we can share we can share screen on checklist too, and just look at which players there. So that a Jordan and the Jordans, the Kobe's, the Tom Brady's, they're always going to get all the the attention, but you might be a Titans fan or a Ravens fan or whatever, and you might be looking for the Ed Reed version of that card or whatever. So yeah, we'll pull up checklists on those, and so that's gonna be fun, man. All right, well, hey, we got a project. Did you freeze? Did I freeze? Did you freeze?
Enjoy my crew. You take the card and put it in the sleeve.
Well, if DPZ froze, then that means we have got to end the episode. So I'll awkwardly end the recording now. See you next time, guys.